Okay, and you are?
Dave Johnston.
Okay, Dave, where are we at right now?
We are at Toyota of Grand Rapids.
In Grand Rapids, Michigan, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, tell me a little bit about your background, how long you've been in the automotive industry, what you've done in the automotive industry.
Well, I've been in the automotive industry for 42 years. I started when I was 7. I've been virtually every chair in the dealership with the exception of F&I, although I've been around F&I. I've worked with Autonation. I've worked with the Suburban Collection. I've been a used vehicle director for Autonation. I've done some extensive training. I formed my own company a few years ago called Power and Process. Recently, dealers have stopped spending money to a large degree on stand-up trainers and some consulting. They've gone with DVDs. They've gone with internet training. So I have decided to take a position that was offered to me here at Grand Rapids Toyota to be their Director of Business Development. I'm excited about the possibilities.
Okay, let me jump in a little bit. I think this is very important to elaborate. Can you explain, because there's going to be some people watching this that don't know what Autonation is. Autonation is the largest dealer group in the country, is that correct?
That's correct.
How many dealerships approximately does Autonation have?
Well, they've trimmed down a lot of their domestics and they've concentrated a lot on Highlines, but I'm going to say in the neighborhood of 300.
Okay, so we're talking about over 300 stores. So this is a company that's extremely successful and powerful, would you say?
I would say so, yes.
Now, what's also interesting, what a lot of people don't know, is that one of the top third-party providers and aggregators, currently called Auto USA, formerly called AutoVantage, is 100% owned by Autonation.
Yes,
Are you aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
Okay, so Autonation is a major player in e-commerce, and you have not only a tremendous amount of experience in the automotive industry, you also have experience working for the biggest and most powerful dealer group in the country. You've also been an entrepreneur, you've been a consultant, trainer, and you've gone to all parts of the country to train dealerships, training general managers and everybody down. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so now you've taken the position as Internet Director. I'm going to ask you this question, and what I'm referring to is not because of economics or what have you, like, about, you shutting down your business, but as far as why internet? Why did you say after 42 years, I think I'm going to give it a shot in the internet? Is it like, because a lot of times I find that the dealerships think of the internet as as an elephant graveyard. Before you put somebody down, give them a shot in the internet department.
Well, somebody, an executive that they were considering me for consulting, and we talked, obviously I'm not a kid, and he asked me how long I was going to work, and I said, as long as I'm relevant. And he said, how will you know? And I said, well, when I see people looking at their watch and nodding off when I'm talking to them, I'll know. But in the meantime, I never want to stop learning. And I know that to get ahead of the curve, a very wise man once said, if you feel the need for change, you've waited too long. I'm very interested in getting into this. I see the potential. I've had my eyes open to what some dealerships have done, and even they have just barely scratched the surface. So I'm excited to be part of this, and I look forward to the growth.
Okay, here's a couple of things I want to add, and this is all about you, not me. That's why I'm on this side of the camera. I want to kind of just talk to you about my personal belief, like I've shared with you and with many people in this industry, is that an internet department is made or broken in 4 key areas: your products, people, process, and promotions. However, I want to touch on one of the P's, the people. It is absolutely imperative to have the right people in place. Now, a lot of times, unfortunately, dealers have internet directors, internet sales managers that don't get the respect, the responsibility, the ability to do their job. They're almost thought of as the bastard people and the bastard managers in the dealership. They're the fake managers. They're not real managers. But that paradigm needs to be changed. Again, in my opinion, especially in this situation, which we didn't share yet, I'll share it. This is a centralized, business development center with multiple locations that are in excess of 30 plus miles away, correct? Mm-hmm. And we have a centralized department. The goal is to do over 100 units out of your internet department. Like we discussed, the average dealership in the United States doesn't even sell 100 units a month. So what we, in essence, want to do is more than the average store does out of your internet department. So logically, you can't have the captain of the ship or the director, in your case, the director, that doesn't have the same skills or close to the same skills of a GSM. It's just not going to work. I mean, you wouldn't run the average dealership in the country with just salespeople, without somebody that could TO, without people that could desk deals, without the level of an automotive professional, in the management level. Would you agree?
Certainly.
Okay, so for me, I got to tell you, I'm friggin' excited that they chose you to be the internet director because of all of your experience. I want you to kind of just like talk to me and the camera here, like what type of, I don't know, thoughts do you have as far as you come in with all of your experience, what you could bring to the table versus some, internet geek or some really young kid or something like that?
Well, as I shared with you earlier, I don't know exactly what the formula is, but I seem to have the ability, primarily the people that are on the phones tend to be younger people, college kids in their 20s, and I have the ability to get them to rally around me. I have children myself. I have a great rapport with them, and I think that's necessary, that they trust me, that they believe in me. I'm kind of the old, unsophisticated car guy, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm not smoke and mirrors, I'm just content. I'm not big on technology, but I can smell a car deal. And I think that's one of the important facets. I can be a great liaison between the people on the phones and the people on the floor, which I think is extremely important. I think getting everybody on the same page and driving it as a team instead of, one side is the enemy and one side has to win. I think that's vital to being successful. And you put all those things together and get everybody going in the same direction, I don't see it's a win-win for everybody.
No, I concur, and I also want to get your opinion on a couple of things. Like I mentioned before, a little bit kidding, but very serious on the respect level. You've been in the automotive industry longer than I've been alive. You know what I mean? There's got to be respect given to what you've seen and what you've done throughout your career. I'm very interested, like you, to learn as much as I can from everybody. That's why I asked you to take a little bit of time to do this video with me. What advice would you have? I mean, like, this is literally your second day on the job, right? Mm-hmm. What is your advice to internet directors out there that are just starting out becoming an internet director or taking over, especially because almost every dealership has an internet department nowadays, and unfortunately the longevity of an internet director store is not that high, nationally speaking. So if somebody's taken over a new department, whether it's a small mom and pop shop or something as large as a large dealer group, for example, what advice do you have? Because you're in that same situation right now. What are you going to do to prepare yourself to become the new leader of this department and make this department successful?
Well, something I've always done, whether it be working with managers or salespeople, new hires, experienced people, and in this case with internet people, is I have a short questionnaire, and I call it an icebreaker. And it simply says your name, how long have you been doing this, what training have you had up to now, what do you view your challenges to be, do you have any questions, and what are your ultimate career goals. And as I go around the room and each person expresses this, I develop a dialogue. I get to know them. Then I go over me. I had a client that sent me into a Chevrolet dealership in Florida, at one of the largest in the world, and there was a lady there that had been selling cars her whole life, and her whole wall was filled with plaques. Number one, number one. And she consistently would go to Europe, Asia on a quarterly basis because she was extremely successful. And she asked me, she said, so what qualifies you to tell us how to sell more cars? And I went through my resume, and when I was done, she says, okay, you'll do. And at the end of the course, she came up and she says, you know what, I sell a lot of cars. As a result of viewing you and working with you, I'm going to sell more and I'm going to work smarter. And to me, that's a home run. I delight in that. Some people come to training and they just don't want to be there. But that little brief introduction sheet at the very beginning that tells you where everybody's at and what I'm about breaks the ice and sets the path for me to become effective leader for them.
Okay. One last thing, and we're going to close on this because I liked it. You had told me that you came up with the five things of success. I forgot. Can you please share that, or is that something that's proprietary?
Well, it's not rocket science. It's pretty simple. And this originated with a group of trainers sitting around saying, what does it take for a salesman to be successful. And we came up with hundreds of things. And I said, what if we could quantify those into something less than 10 that would cover everything that was trainable? And we talked about it, and we all went our separate ways, and I went one step further. I actually analyzed it. And the first one is enthusiasm or attitude. Without it, you're lost. You can have a somewhat less than a positive attitude, and you could survive, but you won't be successful. The second one is you've got to talk to people. And it's amazing how many really good salespeople have to be dragged to talk to a customer. And yet the person that is willing to get their head handed to them in one customer and then turn right around and wait on somebody else, that person will be successful. The third is you're willing to believe the assumptive close, because everybody says they're just looking. So you have to assume the sale. Fourth is you have to give everybody a world-class presentation. No matter how the greeting goes, no matter what they say after the greeting, your goal is to get from step 1 to how many ever steps your dealership has, whether it's 20 or 10, and normally it's 1 to 10. But your goal is to get through those steps and to effectively utilize those steps towards the goal of closing the deal, no matter what the customer says in the beginning. And then ultimately at the end is follow-up. I've seen many a salesman make a living just on their follow-up ability. If you do those 5 things religiously with every customer, you'll lead the board month in and month out. It's hard. It takes a lot of self-discipline, mental toughness, because there's obviously a lot of frustration.
Well, wow. Again, I hope people that are watching this are going to rewind this YouTube, and again, that's experience talking. I got to tell you, Dave, I'm really excited about the success for this organization and to be able to share in it. Okay, so thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.